never met an Afghanistani before. You seem like a friendly people.
We are. I'm just not a good example.
Today on Arts 24. One of the year's most buzzed about movies on the festival circuit. A different spin on a refugee story. Warm and offbeat, Fremont tells the tale of a young Afghan woman building a new life in California. I've been speaking to the Iranian-British writer-director, Babak Jalali. Okay, Babak Jalali, hello.
Hello.
Congratulations on your film Fremont. Now, it caused quite a buzz at the Deauville American Film Festival when it was shown in September. It's out in France this month. How would you describe it?
It's a story about a young Afghan woman who used to work as a translator in Afghanistan for the US military and has recently moved to the city of Fremont outside San Francisco and is starting her life over again.
Tell us where the idea for it came from.
I was making another film in the San Francisco area, which was my second feature film called Radio Dreams. There were some Afghan actors in that film as well, and they told me right outside San Francisco there is a city called Fremont, which is home to the biggest Afghan population in North America. So I was curious, I went to visit. It was there that I met quite a few former translators who had been resettled there. They were granted a special immigration visa to settle in America, but once they were there, they were sort of abandoned. And that's how, the idea came about.
Well, your lead actress, Anaita Zada, is the big story here. She'd never acted before. Just 5 months she was on one of the evacuation planes coming out of Afghanistan when the Taliban returned to power. How did you find her?
We did an open casting call on social media and through Afghan community centers in America, saying we're looking for a young Afghan woman for a feature film. One of the things that's irritated me a lot has been representation of Afghan women in media and in cinema. You seldom, if ever, see an Afghan woman leave the house. Every media reportage or film representation, cinematic representation, just shows an Afghan woman at home, focuses on the oppression. They have no agency, they never fall in love, they never have a job, they never have dreams, they never have aspirations. Whereas in my experience, whether in Iran, where we had a huge Afghan population, or outside Iran, they were always independent, they had aspirations, they had goals, they had desires, they left the house. For me, it was important to show an Afghan woman who does have those things. So we decided to do the story, focus the story with the lead being a woman. Anaita wrote me an email saying, hello, my name is Anaita. I'm 22 years old. 6 months ago, I was evacuated from Afghanistan on one of those evacuation flights we saw in the news. I've been resettled in Maryland, outside Washington, D.C. Came here with my oldest sister, but all the rest of my family, siblings and mother are still there. And I don't speak great English, and I've never acted before, but I'm interested.
We could go on a blind double date?
No, I think I would hit a blind date.
We are looking for someone else to replace her. Would you be interested? Important messages. They shouldn't be too original. They shouldn't be too obvious.
البته که میکنم.
I mean, the moment I saw her, the way she presented herself, and when she told me her own personal story, which was not too far removed from the character of Donya, which we had written. Anaita wasn't a former translator, but she was a young woman who's starting life from scratch. And so we thought she could really relate to the role as well.
Everyone in the film, though, seems so authentic, so perfect for the roles they've got. Bear actor Jeremy, Alan White, and veteran Gregg Turkington. Tell me about the process of getting them involved.
This was the first time that I actually worked with a mixture of professionals and non-professionals. My previous 3 films were almost exclusively made with non-professionals. Gregg Turkington is someone whose work I've admired for a long time. Through a producer, George Rush, we sent the script to him, and he said he'd do it. And Jeremy Allen White, one of my best friends is a filmmaker in New York called Antonio Campos. And Antonio's first feature film had a 15-year-old Jeremy Allen White in it, a film called After School. So I was over there in the Bay Area, kind of freaking out because we hadn't cast that role yet. I called Antonio, he's like, why don't you give Jeremy a call? So I did. A few days later, he drove up to San Francisco. And we were very lucky in the sense that both Gregg Turkington and Jeremy Allen White, first and foremost, are thoroughly decent human beings. And their presence really helped Anaita because for her it was a daunting experience. She'd never done this before. And they were so sympathetic to that. They were so understanding of that, and they really helped her.
Tell us then about the setting of the fortune cookie factory. What are you trying to say about the American dream?
I'm not a big proponent of the American dream. I don't believe in it as such. This is a factory, true, run by immigrants, Chinese immigrants, and another immigrant, a newer arrival, finds solace and comfort being around other immigrants. The idea for the fortune cookie factory came from the co-writer, Carolina Cavalli. It was Carolina who said, you know, one of the main themes of the film is the idea of possibilities. And that's essentially what fortune cookies do. They allude to the idea of possibilities. So it would be interesting if Donya had the responsibility, when she herself is seeking new things, is entrusted with the responsibility of telling others about possibilities.
Talking about possibilities, the Syrian filmmaker Waad Al-Khatib's documentary about the Olympic refugee team has also recently come out in cinemas. It's called We Dare to Dream. It looks at the refugee athletes and what they did at the Tokyo Olympics.
شو راح يكون شعورك إذا تم اختيارك ضمن فريق اللاجئين يلي رح يروحوا على طوكيو هاي السنة؟
أول شغلة هذا الشعور لا يوصف لأنه راح يكون شيء عالي كثير.
There's a sense in Fremont that you're playing with this idea a little bit of the refugee film. How important are these varied stories, do you think?
I think they're very important. I think a lot of films that deal with the immigrant experience, and a lot of these films I like, they almost exclusively focus on the grim realities of what they perceive to be the immigrant experience. So it has the effect of putting the emphasis on the audience to watch a film for 90 minutes, 2 hours in the cinema, and pity the characters they're watching. So they just feel sorry and feel sorry and feel sorry, then they go for a drink or for dinner and they go home. The characters are unrelatable. And first and foremost, an immigrant or refugee is a human being. They have the same desires, wishes, aspirations as someone who's not a refugee. And to humanize them, I think, is a primary responsibility of a storyteller if you're telling a story about them. So in our case, Donya, the lead, she's a young Afghan woman. She has a past. We allude to it, we refer to it. But anyone who has read a newspaper or watched the news will know about those things. But she's no different to a 22-year-old from France, from Uruguay, from Germany, wherever else. She wants to go to bed at night feeling at ease. She wants to have something to do the next day, potentially find companionship, which is not different to someone from anywhere else. And that, I think, presents her as a human being first and foremost, rather than being labeled a refugee. And hopefully, by extension, she'll become someone an audience can relate to.
Your accent doesn't sound very Fremont.
I'm from Afghanistan.
You studying?
I'm a writer.
The main character is female. Your co-writer, cinematographer, and principal producers are also female. Was that all by design?
And the assistant director and the costume designer. Many of the heads of department were female. I mean, I picked who I felt were the
best for the job.
Best for the job. I'm glad because I think, particularly in this story where we're telling a story about a female, having other women by my side, I think just helps to tell that story. There was this particular sensitivity and sensibility as well that I think was essential when you're telling a story such as we were.
I just wanted to talk a bit about your background. You were born in Iran, raised in London. You released your first film in 2009, Frontier Blues, which was set in Iran. Then there was Radio Dreams in 2016. You followed it up in 2018 with Land, which is about an indigenous American man being killed in Afghanistan and his family living on a reservation back home. How did you decide your stories?
I've always been generally interested, whether that's literature, music, or films, with people on the periphery of society. That could be an immigrant, someone indigenous who's been excluded essentially from the land that they originally are from, or musicians who haven't quite made it. Yeah, essentially that's where it comes from, just this attraction to the outsider.
We are on a 24-hour news channel, and we're seeing a lot in the past couple of years about what's going on back home in Iran. Can you ever see yourself doing a film like inspired by the events back home?
Only if it was to be done in Iran, I think. I have told stories about Iranians outside, Radio Dreams, for example. I see myself telling a story about the Iranian experience abroad. I wouldn't make a film that is set in Iran but shot in another country, but I would dearly love to be able to make another film in Iran.
Okay, Babak Jalali, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thanks very much.
I'm not meeting anybody.
You don't need anybody. You need someone special.
Next time you answer like a fortune cookie, I'll eat you.
I don't spend much time thinking.
Why?
Too busy with my social life. Thank you.